Aussie Beach TV. You're watching Aussie Beach TV. You're watching Aussie Beach TV. The hottest girls you will ever see.
So Ian Crane, what are your thoughts on the 9/11 incident?
How long we got? 9/11, yeah, 9/11 was the absolute catalyst for everything that has occurred in the world over the last 11 years now. You know, I was actually in Central America in 2001. This is one of my periods when I was researching Mayan mythology and Mayan cosmology, and I knew all the way through the summer of 2001 something was going to happen. I didn't know what, but when George W. Bush was awarded the US presidency by the Supreme Court in December of 2000, after he was sworn in on the White House lawn, he basically didn't do anything. He spent almost all of his time at his ranch in Crawford, Texas, or playing golf. And that's not what a US president does. So it was pretty obvious that the guy was just being put onto the bench, and basically he was being told, you know, you just chill, you bide your time, and, you know, we'll give you a call when we got something going down. And of course the real guy who was calling the shots at this time was the Vice President, Dick Cheney, along with Donald Rumsfeld. Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, they have a career of evil that goes back for 30 odd years. So they were the guys calling the shots. On the morning of 9/11, of course, George W. Bush was down in a Florida school reading My Pet Goat.
Of course.
Yeah, My Pet Goat, of course, is actually code for Baphomet, but that's a whole other issue. So, and it's my belief, I may be wrong, of course, I don't know for sure, but it's my belief that George W. Bush didn't know anything about the planning for 9/11. Dick Cheney, on the other hand, and Donald Rumsfeld absolutely did. And they were the guys really calling the shots. I mean, in that period, George W. Bush was president in name only. You know, he was just a puppet. He was just like Obama, really. He was just a puppet in the office. But for people who still think that 9/11 was perpetrated by 19 Muslims wielding plastic box cutters, what I would encourage them to do is just go and take a look at the video footage of the towers collapsing. I mean, I hate to say it, but I was actually sitting in Belize on the morning of 9/11, so it was 8 o'clock in the morning local time, and I was watching the events unfold on CNN. And of course, by the time the camera crews got to downtown New York, nobody saw the first plane go into the tower, of course, but we saw the second plane come in. And then 45 minutes later, the first tower collapsed. And the moment that tower collapsed, I regret to say, but what I did was I stood up and I clapped and I went, yes, this is it. This is what they've been keeping George W. Bush on the bench for. I said, because this is going to launch the agenda for whatever's going to unfold. Well, so look at the footage, because the reality is that 3 towers collapsed on 9/11. The Twin Towers, 1 and 2, both supposedly hit by planes. Both of those towers collapsed, one in 45 minutes, the other one within an hour and 15 minutes. Those towers turned to dust. If you look at a controlled demolition of any other building anywhere else on the planet, those buildings, when they collapse, they come down into a pile of rubble, not dust. And then, so these buildings literally evaporated. Now, there is no known technology in the public domain that could literally turn those buildings into dust. So something truly remarkable happened that day, and I don't profess to know what. But then the third tower, this was World Trade Center 7, otherwise known as the Salomon Brothers building, and that collapsed at 5:20 in the afternoon. Now the BBC clearly got ahead of themselves because somebody obviously gave them the script and they read it a bit too soon, because the BBC announced that the Salomon Brothers building had collapsed half an hour before it actually collapsed.
Really?
Oh yeah, and the evidence is in the public domain, because the girl who is the reporter who's telling the story, she's saying, yeah, we've just heard that World Trade Center 7's collapsed, but it's standing in the background behind her.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting for one moment that the BBC was in any way involved. It was simply a case of somebody had handed them a piece of information, but they read it ahead of time. So then we have the whole issue of the Pentagon, and the reality is that 4 planes supposedly crashed that day, and yet the amount of wreckage wouldn't even fill a bin liner. I mean, it's those planes evaporated, the buildings evaporated. You literally have to suspend your knowledge of Newtonian physics to believe the official story of 9/11. So once again, I'm not suggesting that I know what happened. I'm just simply encouraging people to look at the evidence for themselves, because when you really look at the evidence, with a truly open mind, there are just so many questions. And of course, what we really need is an open and honest investigation, not the piece of BS that the 9/11 Commission put together. But the other factor is that exactly 1 year before 9/11, a group called the Project for a New American Century, they published a report called Rebuilding America's Defenses. And in that report, they acknowledged that America needed to effectively take control of the planet, because after the fall of the Soviet Empire in 1989, America was the only superpower on the planet. And this group of people, 27 of them put their signatures to this document, but this group of people basically said the only way we're going to do this is to literally establish sort of military dominance on the planet. But the American people obviously wouldn't support that. And in this report, published exactly 1 year before 9/11, it said that the American people would only support an aggressive global agenda in the event of a catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. And on 9/11, of course, they got their new Pearl Harbor. So I believe that there is more than enough evidence in the public domain to show that 9/11 was a political construct created to give the impression that America needed to effectively launch its war on terror. And of course, here we are 11 years on, and the world's in a bigger mess than it's ever been.
Well, if the shoe fits, right?
Wherever it goes, yeah, exactly.
Thanks for that insight, Ian.
What are your thoughts about the 9/11 that occurred in the USA?
9/11, I mean, if people can't see that this was a staged event, I mean, I don't know what hope there is for them, really. I mean, it's so obvious that this was not what we were told. There's so many things that point to it being an inside job. There's Larry Silverstein, all of the insurance scandal that happened with him. There's the fact that there's never been any evidence produced to implicate bin Laden. If you go to the FBI website and you look at Osama bin Laden, his wanted poster.
Was he an agent?
It's probably, yeah, there's speculation that he was an agent. I mean, if you actually go to the FBI website, it probably doesn't exist anymore because he's apparently dead now, which I actually think he died years ago, but that's another story. But
I thought he was still alive.
Well, the wanted poster on the FBI website, when you look at Osama bin Laden, it doesn't have 9/11 listed as one of the things he's wanted for. And if you contact the FBI and ask them why that is, they will tell you that it's because they haven't yet found any evidence linking him to the attack. This is the FBI saying that they cannot find any evidence linking Osama bin Laden to the 9/11 attacks.
So why did the media raise us to believe that he was?
Because they wanted to invade Afghanistan and they wanted to invade Iraq. That's what it was all about. You know.
Was Saddam Hussein as well, and that scandal?
Well, Saddam Hussein was put there by the US. He wasn't guilty of half the stuff they said he was. I mean, he wasn't a good man. Well, they create these puppets. I mean, they put Saddam in place, they armed him, they supplied him with all the weapons he needed to carry out all the atrocities he carried out against his own people and in the war with Iran. They basically gave him the weapons because they wanted to to create a war with Iran. They've been trying to get Iran to
So
go to
they
war
wanted
for
to stop
years.
the war and be the ones to save the saviours.
Well, they present the Muslim world as the boogeyman, and then they come in as the knight on the white charger to save us all. It's exactly the same thing that Hitler did in World War II. Hitler burnt down his Reichstag. He blamed it on a group he didn't like. He said evidence would be produced later, but it never was. And then he used the event to create the Department of Fatherland Security, and he used it as a pretext to go out and wage war against other countries. This is exactly what happened in 9/11. George W. Bush, they had this attack. They blamed it on someone they didn't like. They said evidence would be produced later, but it never was. Then they used it to form the Department of Homeland Security and used it as a pretext to wage preemptive strikes on the rest of the world. It's exactly the same scenario.
They wanted the oil too, of course.
Well, oil's part of it, but really it's all about control. It's all about expanding the corporate empire. See, every country Bush named in the axis of evil was every country that didn't have a central bank. The recent, what we saw in Libya, they had this huge revolution in Libya, and then the revolutionaries, the first thing they did was they established a central bank so they could be free. I mean, how is that freedom? So who staged that attack? I mean, a central bank, this is everything that is wrong with our societies, it's a central banking system. This is what controls the government. This is how the whole corporate system's run.
Exactly.
So here you have these rebels, their first action is to install a central bank. So, I mean, if people can't see that was an inside job and staged as well, I mean, what's it going to take to wake these people up? Sharia law is becoming so popular because of look what the West's doing. You know?
Exactly.
They're going,
They're screwing us
you're going to
over.
support this? You know, so that gives the opportunity for the Muslims to create their own dictatorship. Those within the Muslim mindset who might have a psychopathic nature who want to create that, it gives them the opportunity to create it. So it's all the same system of control. And radical Islam never even appeared until certain books promoting radical Islam were printed in Pennsylvania University in the late 70s and given to the Mujahideen. And the Mujahideen in the war with Russia were told that, no, Russia isn't just attacking your country, they're attacking your faith. So they turned it into this extremist mindset.
Exactly.
And they promoted that mindset amongst the Mujahideen, which then branched off out into Al-Qaeda, you know. It was all created by the West. The whole lot was created by the West. You know, Brzezinski's actually single-handedly responsible for the creation of Al-Qaeda, if you really want to look at it, you know. So, yeah, it's a big new Brzezinski, current advisor to President Obama, you know. I mean, and Al-Qaeda, really, it isn't what people say it is anyway. I mean, nothing that they say is what they say it is. I mean,
Unless you can see it for your own eyes, don't believe what the media tells you.
Al-Qaeda is basically a list of names of Mujahideen who were trained by the CIA they set up these camps. They could train Mujahideen to fight the Russians. And these camps were this is what became Al-Qaeda, was the names of all the people who were trained. The man they employed to run the training camps was Osama bin Laden. He was employed by the CIA to run the training camps. And then, you know, one would suggest that once Osama bin Laden saw what was going on and saw what he was swimming in and how corrupt these people was, he backed away. I don't know, but I look at a picture of Osama bin Laden and I look at those eyes and I think these are not the eyes of a murderer, you know? So I have to wonder. I have to wonder about the whole thing. Of course, I don't think the same thing when I look in the eyes of someone like Hillary Clinton. I think now this is the eyes of a psychopath. So, Osama bin Laden, Hillary Clinton, who's telling the truth here? One has to question. And he released a statement in September 28th, 2001, saying, I had nothing to do with the 9/11 attacks. I do not consider the killing of women and children an appreciable act, and that such killing is forbidden even under Islamic law. Even in war, even in battle, killing of women and children is not permitted. They didn't release the statement because they said it may have contained hidden coded messages for Al-Qaeda and may have caused another bombing. They can't put his name on the wanted poster because they can't find any evidence linking him to the attack. And I'll tell you that straight up.
Yeah, when you're in the...
And then, of course, when they find him, of course, we took his body and dumped it in the ocean before anyone could see it, as you would.
Oh, not only that,
there's
there's a bit of a conspiracy about how we found him and that was he armed or wasn't he armed and how many people were in that building, you know.
According to Middle Eastern and Pakistani newspapers, he died in late December 2001 or early 2002 from kidney failure, renal failure.
Oh, so you believe he died long
He
before
died
they
a
said
long
that they
time
found
ago.
him?
Yeah, a long time ago. He was dead within months of 9/11. The last time it was confirmed that he was seen was on September 10th, 2011, the day before the attacks, when he was visited in a hospital in Dubai, where he was receiving kidney dialysis. And if they found him in a compound in Pakistan, wherever it was, where was the dialysis machine?
Yeah, where's the hospital bed?
Yeah,
Where's
where-
all the medication for
Yeah,
him?
where was the
Or was
dialysis
he just
machine?
like dosed up on heroin and marijuana? Was that his medication?
Did his kidneys suddenly become functional again? I mean, we know this man needed kidney dialysis regularly, so where was the machine? You know?
How would he be able to get access to machine being Osama bin Laden, you know? Like,
Exactly. Nothing about the official story makes any sense at all. None of
Exactly.
it. You know?
And it was just, you know, all of a sudden you haven't heard of him in so long in the media, and all of a sudden, oh, we found him, his body, he's dead. Barack Obama's going, hey, yeah, the black guy found him, you know, like.
It was all part of a Beltane ritual, I believe. The actual finding of Osama bin Laden at that particular time. There was a huge Beltane ritual that happened in 2011. And it was absolutely amazing. It was the biggest one I've seen for years, and I believe that him being presented at that time was done as a tribute to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. It's a very esoteric thing to say, and it's a big story attached to it, but that's why I believe it was done at that particular time.
Oh, I believe it was just for Barack Obama to get more votes at the end of the day, more than anything else.
Yeah, that too. The timing was pretty impeccable.
America
you know.
created a hate on the civilization, and then as soon as that person that America hates the most is gone, who's the saviour? Barack Obama. He's the president. He's the one that, you know, he's the saviour, and that's how people view him.
The man who shot Liberty Valance.
Exactly.
But 9/11 is so obvious. It's so obvious that was
Stands out
staged.
like donkey's balls.
Well, you've got to wonder why they did such a sloppy job, because under any scrutiny, it is so obvious. I mean, it's actually been a good thing in many ways, because it's been a pivotal event that's helped wake up an enormous amount of people to how corrupt this system actually is.
Hopefully we can wake up more with this interview.
Aussie Beach TV. You watching Aussie Beach TV. You watching Aussie Beach TV. The hottest girls you will ever see. Aussie Beach TV. You watching Aussie Beach TV.